Hi, everybody. Recording in progress. I said that earlier today, and recording in progress. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. It's 5:27 p.m. on August 28th, and it's raining outside. And as I just said to WAJID, we've had more rain here in New Jersey this August than ever in history. And we're going to talk about that because it has environmental undertones. And we're going to, this could be a little bit of a different conversation with Calvin. It's more just conversations with WAJID because WAJID and I did do an interview a few months ago. And I've had a chance now to reread The Struggle for World Sanity that WAJID wrote, which is on Amazon, where I got it from, and I also reviewed it, and I read it again, and I read it again because it is so timely that I kind of prevailed upon WAJID if we could sit and chat, and we got about 10 pages of notes here, and right up until last night, it blew my mind how relevant and right on this is. And it's not political, and it's not religious, it's spiritual, metaphysical. So you know what, I'm not gonna do the bio. Why don't WAJID, why don't you do just a quick little bio, and then we're going to kind of work our way through this, the wisdom and the utilitarian nature of this as a guide. And really, if there was a theme, it is environmental. It's environmental here, and you address it so eloquently. It's environmental because 2 weeks ago, the United Nations, the IPCC, the United Nations Climate Report, issued a code red for humanity, meaning we're really running out of time. So this becomes even more. So I've said my monologue. WAJID, please say hello and just a little background.
Yeah, thanks again, Calvin. Wonderful again to be on your show. I really appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. You know, I just had an interview a couple of days ago, and it was about the environment. And, you know, and then you mentioned even before the interview, different authors now coming forward and talking about the environment. It is something that has to be addressed now critically. You talked about the United Nations talking about code red, and we've reached that level. It's beyond discussion now, and it's something that has to be looked at. You know, why is this happening, and what is our future in regards to the environment? So again, just to give your listeners a background, I was born in Pakistan, raised in England, and moved to America. My background is technical. I used to be a field service engineer at one time. Then when I moved to LA in 1987, later on, I got into the field of comedy and acting for over 20 years. And then in the background, I've always been into metaphysics and healing and, you know, the world environment and spirituality, but it was something that I kind of kept in the background. Wasn't something that I advocated on a public level until I recently wrote the book, The Struggle for World Sanity. And since that time, it was published last year, I've had a lot of people interested in the subject matter, which, like you said, is very, very relevant today.
So in reading, and this all is a chronological through my journey through your book, with the people that you'd met out in California, a group of you guys that you met, and You know, you're now doing comedy and stand-up and voiceover and acting. But that group went to Tanzania and you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Can you talk about that experience? I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
actually, it wasn't with that particular group. I actually met up with Mark Victor Hansen, who, if people know, Google his name. He was a co-author of the probably the world best-selling books, Chicken Soup for the Soul,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I was part of his organization and Robert Allen's organization, and so I spent a year traveling with these business guys, these entrepreneurs, and one of the aspects of our journey was to mastermind ideology on ways to help mankind and ourselves, and we ended up doing a safari in Kenya. From there, we drove to Tanzania and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which was just an absolutely incredible, the most physically and mentally demanding uh, challenge I've ever had in my life, but one of the most rewarding. And of course, Kilimanjaro is regarded as a very sacred mountain, has a lot of sacred energy in there, and people who can climb there can also send out energy from the mountain and different mountains around the world, which are like spiritual batteries in the Mother Earth. And so, yeah, it was an experience on getting close to my divinity, to my higher power, and it was an incredible experience, something I'll never forget.
You said something about the spirituality and the energy of that mountain. I've been to Sedona, Arizona 12 times. And I too discovered, because some of the new age people say that there are certain vortexes there. So I'm just lending credence to what you said about Kilimanjaro and that there's certain essence and mysticism and power there and energy. And I walked away from Sedona my 12 times and climbing mountains. And some of them I did to get to the summit, did barefoot, because I read that if you do that barefoot, it allows that energy to go through the soles of your feet into your body. So I'm aboard with what you just said, Wajid, because I've experienced it myself. There's some comedic elements to that I won't get into now. It's funny stuff, but not funny, serious, but it's powerful. Right down to my coming home from Sedona playing poker and getting a royal flush. And maybe it's coincidence, maybe not, I don't know. But it was, anyway, moving along with all
One
my,
thing I wanted to say about Kilimanjaro as well, that your listeners may be interested, is that there are highly evolved spiritual beings that reside inside the mountain on a different energy frequency, and they're known as the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. And these beings also have retreats in different other mountains. Castle Peak in Colorado is one mountain. The Craig and Leth chain in Scotland is another mountain. The Himalayas, they reside under the Himalayas. The Andes in Tibet is another residence of these beings. And they're kind of, Mount Shasta in California is another retreat of the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. And they're kind of behind the scenes, but they keep an eye on mankind. And in the movie The Black Panther, they talked about Wakanda in Africa as a race of advanced beings. Whoever wrote that wasn't far off, because there is a race of advanced beings in Africa, but they actually live under Mount Kilimanjaro, and they do have instrumentations which are billions of years advanced than us. And they, with these instrumentations, they analyzed. They have a complete dossier and analyzation of what mankind is doing. And so that's something your readers may be interested in. I go to a little bit of detail of that in my book as well.
So, question to ask. I don't know if there's an answer, but these entities cannot be very happy with us these days, can they?
I don't think it's a case of being happy with us, because they're highly evolved beings, and so they chose actually to stay upon this planet because they reached the stage of ascension. When you reach a high elevation like cosmic consciousness or nirvana, to the point where you can reach the stage of ascension, you can move on from the reincarnation cycle of Earth and move on to different higher spheres or higher existences. And these beings have deliberately not moved on and have volunteered to stay on Earth because of their deep compassion for mankind. So it's like us looking at, maybe taking care of animals that can't take care of themselves. It's that kind of scenario. So they don't really judge as such. They don't. I guess you're right. They could probably be unhappy, probably sad, but they have this unconditional love that they watch over us over the last 18 million years since we've resided upon this planet.
Interesting. Really interesting for me to listen to this, and it's funny, you fill my head and with some great stuff, and it makes me think. And
you know why it makes you think, Calvin? It'll make the other listeners think, is because our super conscious, even our subconscious remembers everything, remembers all our past lives, from when we were incepted or became who we were, billions of years ago. So when a truth like this is suddenly said, it creates something within, and something triggers from the past, and that's what happens. And so when I talk about these things, and I talk about our home planet Maldek, and I talk about the wars of Lemuria and Atlantis, something clicks within us because we were there and we don't remember it. I think the part of the compassion of the law of reincarnation is that we have glimpses of our past, but not till we're ready, because we could go crazy thinking about it.
yeah.
So we could just focus on the present. But when these truths are sometimes thrown, it definitely stimulates something within the subconscious and the superconscious. Something clicks. We don't know what it is, but something clicks.
So interesting. The whole reincarnation, the whole past. I don't know if we talked about this back, but I don't know if it's related, but I could be sitting here like talking to you now, and all of a sudden something is about as random, as insignificant in my life, going back almost my entire life, will just pop into my head. The most ridiculous, random, non-meaningful thing, but there it would be. And then sometimes I drive. Actually, I'm asking you to psychoanalyze me, you're like my therapist here. I mean, I could be driving in maybe a rural area past a barn, and there's certain trees and shadows, and I'll look at it, and I'll actually slow down and I'll look at it, and I think I was there once before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you probably were. People go to places, or they have feelings. They have this desire to go to particular countries or particular places. My sister had this desire to go to Machu Picchu.
Wow.
And she had a vision as a child, and she saw this procession of this of the Virgin Mary going through this village. And so at that time, she asked my mother, because, we were raised Muslim, and she asked my mother, she said, "Mom, are we Christian?" She said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, I had this dream of the Virgin Mary." And she said, no, we're not Christian, we're Muslim. And so when she went to Machu Picchu, while she was there, lo and behold, she attended this ceremony where the Virgin Mary was prominent. And so she saw that as a child. And so again, never mind the past life, I think we get inclinations of our present life, which shows that maybe, you know, our destiny is not, may not be as random as we think, that we were probably part of our spiritual experience on this planet was designed and laid out for us before we were even born. So again, that's something to think about. And in your case, you know, when you saw these trees and this barn, again, you know, it was probably, it may have been predestined that you were supposed to be at that particular place at that particular time.
I so believe in the predestined aspect. Yeah, I'm finishing my second novel, and Elements. It's a novel. It's I call it an autobiographical memoir. And you and I, not now, but I mean, there's some interesting spiritual things that happened to me that cannot really be explained, and nobody can explain it. And I think they're gifts that you can be in tune to, you know, something higher. And I do believe we're like antennas, that the more we put out and the more we look to receive, the more we get. And I just think the whole spiritual journey, mine has been a gift. And I'm not a special guy. I don't, you know, walk on water or anything, but I've been so gifted spiritually. Nice stuff, practical stuff. Anyway.
I disagree as in regards to gift. I don't think it's a gift. I think it's everything that you get is earned. I don't think that, you know, people say, oh, they have a gift of healing, they have a gift of music. Again, you know, they have a gift of spirituality, a gift of psychic powers. I don't think there's such thing as a gift. I think everything is earned, maybe not in this life. You know, why is it a child comes in at 3 and, you know, becomes a virtuoso in piano? Of course, you know, they didn't learn it at 3 years old. This was, again, an accomplishment that came from their previous life. So nothing is really a gift. Everything is earned. So everything that you have, that people say, oh, you have this and that, this kind, you've earned it in a previous life by your own effort. Okay. Because you know, we don't get something for nothing. You know, it has to be earned.
You know, I call it a gift, actually, in deference to the spirits, because I appreciate, maybe I'm not retracting that I think it's a gift, but it may be recognition, and I think that expression is more. I use gift because it's an expression of gratitude. I'm grateful.
Right.
I'm grateful for this, so I call it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I really am grateful because it's been transformative in my life, and part of my journey. And listen, am I sitting here with you now? Part of this journey that I would have never in a million years expected would have happened. So. I'm just grateful, and when I do my little meditation a few times a week, I kind of thank, just grateful. So, moving on, chapter 3, you talk about mystical experiences in UFO contacts, and if you'd like to kind of, that fascinates me, that whole world. And I kind of believe in it. So if you'd like to talk about some of your experiences with.
Well, you know, in the 50s and 60s, you know, you were laughed at. My master was laughed at when he talked about life on other planets and having contact with beings of, you know, higher extraterrestrials. And now, it's an insult if people tell you, if the media or NASA tells you there's no such thing as, you know, life on other planets. And now it's the whole concept has changed because as science expands, people's horizons expand, their level of consciousness expands, and there's too many. There's so much evidence now that before you were considered a quack, now you're considered a quack if you don't believe in this. So the tide is definitely changing. The age of 18, I had a very mystical direct experience out in the wilderness with a spacecraft which hovered over me and sent these beautiful energies through me. And it was I had premonition that I had to be at that particular place at a certain time. And I kept it to myself for many, many years. But the feeling I got was the people who man these spacecraft or UFOs or these extraterrestrials are very not only scientifically advanced, but also spiritually advanced. And again, in collaboration with the spiritual hierarchy of this planet, are carefully watching us and trying to help us raise our consciousness back to where we regress, because at one time we were very advanced beings. And again, at that particular age, it was something I kept to myself. I didn't want people to, I think because it was so personal for me, it was so intimate for me, I didn't really want to share it with anybody. And it was only recently, after many years, that I opened up to let people know that, that there are beings out there who really care about us. And that was one of the experiences I wrote down as part of my experiences I've had in the book.
I think it's time to kind of talk a little bit about Dr. George King and your journey and how you met and the work he's done. And then if you could talk a little bit about the Aetherius Society. I just think I think he's so fascinating, and too many of us don't know really much about Dr. George King.
Well, yeah, there's unsung heroes on this planet that are recognized maybe hundreds of years after they passed on. And it seems to be the case in our history that people who came, pioneers of our age, was solely misunderstood and laughed at. And Dr. King was no exception. He was an extremely advanced Yogi master who invented a lot of missions to help mankind. His teachings and the teachings of the cosmic beings that communicated through him were all for the benefit of mankind, warning mankind, of the folly, especially in the field of atomic experimentation, blowing up hydrogen and atom bombs. And then regressing from the spiritual laws, not the religious laws, but the spiritual laws, which the beings that contacted him talked about, things like the law of karma, action, reaction being opposite and equal, that if you murder somebody, you will probably be murdered either in this life or a next life, simple laws which were laid down again by Moses and other great leaders, Master Jesus, Lord Krishna, Lord Buddha. These are universal laws, which again we've retracted from, and which has brought the chaos that is happening right now. And at the age of 16, I met this amazing man, and if people want to know more about him, they can go to his organization's website, the Aetherius Society, which is aetherius.org. But I just knew instantly when I met him. Sometimes, like when I met you, there was a rapport. Sometimes when you meet somebody, there's a rapport, a spiritual, mental, intellectual, even psychic rapport that you meet. And I just instantly recognized him as a great master. And I've been following him, for over 40 years. I don't have time to go into all the things that he did, but he did missions that actually saved mankind from terrible destruction, and And he was an expert in the manipulation of spiritual energy, a scientist in his own right, a metaphysician, and a great yogi master. So it was an honor and privilege to have got to know him.
I do want to say to folks that are listening that I mentioned to you beforehand that I had gone to the Ethereal Society website, and I don't know, and they actually have, you can sit in virtually on some of the sessions, and I'm going to do that because it's a need to learn and feel and experience. Boy, it so moved me in all the readings that I've done, and some of the glimpses I got of Dr. George King. One of the overwhelming themes, I mentioned this to you, Wajid. One of the overwhelming themes is selfless service to others. It just keeps on coming up and coming up, and I kind of realized that on my own, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, that that's what life's about, service to others and to give, and that's what really impressed me. So
just piggybacking on what you said. Again, I wrote him the book, and what Dr. King said, and what the cosmic beings that talk through him, is that is the big thing these days, is service to others in this age of Aquarius. They said that the greatest religion is service, the greatest yoga is service. It all points back to karma yoga, the yoga of service. And so again, they're saying in these days, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be an atheist, doesn't matter what race or religion or color, all that doesn't matter anymore. The main thing right now is to serve, selfless service, unconditional love. Those are the things that are needed these days. Not silly rituals, not political messages. None of those things count. The biggest thing that counts right now is service to every man, woman, child, animal, plant, and helping the planet, and that's what counts.
And that's how I came up. My belief in what you said. That's how I came up with my channel, Conversation with Calvin, We the Species. That was a heavy thought that didn't just pop. That's been part of me for a long time. And especially the last couple of decades of my life, I just kind of realized we are one species. Forget we the people. It's nice, and it's part of our Constitution, and it's a great living document. But more than that, we really are one species. And I think, well, the sooner we realize that, if we ever realize it, the better we'll be. We are one species. And it's funny, the pandemic taught us that there isn't a spot on this earth that's immune to catching the pandemic, COVID.
Well, there's two main aspects of service. One is practical service. My brother's a doctor. He was in the front line, in COVID, and helping save lives. And, so there's that practical service, the nurses and doctors and, the volunteers around the world who are helping, people who help the homeless. So there's a lot of that practical service going on. But there's, some of us, we look at the news, we get despondent. I do every day. I get despondent because it just seems that every day is something, just even the last few days, what's been happening, and we do tend to get despondent, and we think, well, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. And here again is the answer. The answer is spiritual action, where we can actually send spiritual healing, a tangible energy, through our heart center, through our palms of the hand, and just send this energy out, which is so needed in this world right now, because, thoughts are real, and we have not only physical pollution, but we have a mental pollution around the planet. these evil thoughts of hatred, jealousy, greed, envy. And that also needs to be, that needs to be more transmuted as much as physical service. So that is the call for action again. And what the Ethereal Society does is, I belong to an online group. We meet pretty regularly, different from like 50 plus different countries. Again, it doesn't matter what race or religion, and we send out this energy on a regular basis. And so any of your listeners now don't have to be despondent anymore. When if they want to join us, the website is called 12blessings.org. They can go on there, but there's no need to be despondent anymore. We can make a difference in the world, individually and collectively. So anything that we do to raise one individual sending out spiritual power has to, like somebody mentioned, I think Dr. King mentioned once that he said a butterfly flapping its wings in California has to, in one way, metaphysically affect the wind currents in Australia. No, they can't be tangibly analyzed, but it has to. And so we, as one unit, as one entity, we're all interconnected. So if one person tries to raise the whole of mankind, it has to, in effect, affect the whole of mankind, and vice versa. Anybody who murders somebody will bring mankind down. So in these days, it's practical service, but also spiritual service. That's all. That is the call of action for today.
I so buy into this. And actually, I'm saying it now. I will hook up to 12blessings.org and experience that, because it's part of life to experience and learn and feel and all of that. This is great. The time and having met you and learning, because I'm such a fan, I'm such a believer of all that and the whole spiritual side of me. So moving on, the other, I was so moved because in here, we talked about it before too. The wealth, you write about your concern with the welfare of animals and also plants, and then you quoted Gandhi, and I wrote it down because it really moved me. You can tell how a country is by the way it treats its animals. And you wrote about the special love of a dog and a human. And you also wrote about plants. And I was, not because I read what you wrote, but I've been a big plant guy for a long time. I think I mentioned this to you last time. We have this big bush in front of our house that keeps growing. And it's grown so much, it's taken over the sidewalk. So if you want to walk along from the driveway to my front door, you got to walk all around the grass because the bush has completely consumed the sidewalk. And my wife said, I'm going to get, a guy to cut this. I said, no, just let it be. Let it be. And so we walk around. I said, it's good exercise anyway to walk around. It's not that much you're walking around.
In regards to plants, again, people don't realize that, they're controlled by the nature spirits. The fairies and the elves control the little flowers. And then you have larger nature spirits like, Neptune that controls the seas, mighty nature spirits. And so we're all interconnected with the plants and the animals. And, those who show cruelty or indifference to animals and plants are really showing cruelty and indifference to themselves, because again, there's that universal connection. And some of us who have pets and had pets in the past know the unconditional love that dogs and cats show us, and what they teach us. It would be good that if humans acted that way, this world would be a better place, because animals are so forgiving. They don't hold on to resentments or get angry. And angry animals are usually the ones that have been raised that way by the humans.
Correct.
This universal love, this pranic energy pervades not only mankind, but every single atom on this planet. This energy of LOVE, it's the greatest energy in the cosmos, and all we need to do is tap into that and just send it out and raise the vibrations of this world. I didn't understand. I love dogs, but I raise cats. I didn't understand cats till I started raising them myself. And so people, again, who mistreat are just ignorant and just don't know any better. And it's because of this ignorance that they act the way that they do. And a country is judged by the way, and some of the way animals are treated is very, very disgusting, and should be stopped immediately.
Agreed. I said to you before, we have our granddog with us. We're babysitting for our granddog, and there's just the love. And I keep saying the love that you feel, that you give. It's so special. Looking at my notes, if you wanted to say a couple of comments from chapter 6, we are not from Earth. If you wanted to say anything about that, I think you froze.
I think we both froze for,
okay.
for a minute.
All right. I don't know how much you heard, but
you were talking about the love of animals.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a gift to give and to receive that kind of love. It's just I love every second that I'm with my granddog. It's a great feeling. Chapter 6. You talk about we are not from Earth. Do you want a couple of comments about that?
Yeah, again, something that spikes curiosity, that spikes intrigue, even controversy. But it's been understood now by scientists that Dr. King had, as a yogi master, was able to project from his body and read the aura of the planet, which some people in the East refer to as the Akashic records. And they don't lie. It's like a supercomputer that has a total history of this planet and the human race. And he's not the first, but now, he mentioned that we did reside upon a planet that orbited between Jupiter and Mars by the name of Maldek over 18 million years ago. And in our apathy, we allowed certain evil elements on this planet to destroy this planet in an atomic explosion. And scientists are now theorizing that that the asteroid belt that was left could have been a planet that was exploded a million years ago.
Wow.
So the asteroid belt is our home planet of Maldek, which we destroyed. Wow. And then eventually we were reincarnated upon this earth. So we're all extraterrestrials. We're not from this earth. And I also wrote in the book that part of us sometimes feel that we don't belong. There's an aspect of us that looks up to the stars and, feels, again, deep down inside us, we were space travelers at one time. Highly advanced space travelers. So there's an aspect of us, again, that remembers that, deep down inside us, we can't figure it out. And so not only the destruction of Maldek, but over the millions of years, there was two other civilizations that we destroyed. The first being Lemuria, and again that went under an atomic warfare that caused the axis to flip, and again later on the civilization of Atlantis fell under atomic destruction. The Bible talks about the Great Flood, and that was probably what happened. When the axis flipped, the Atlantis fell under the waters. And so again, for the fourth time, history repeats itself. We're just so crazy individuals that we've opened up the Pandora's box again, and we're on the brink possibly of another atomic war, on top of the destruction that we're causing to the planet, the wars, the political upheavals, the hatred between races and religions. I mean, let's face it, it is a mess. It really is a mess. But again, there's a glimmer of hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, which I wrote in the book, that it's been prophesied now that there will be a golden age of peace and enlightenment. Not might, but will come to planet Earth in the centuries to come. And it's up to us. Either we conform and raise our vibrations to what's happening. And, you mentioned the environment, climate change. It's not just carbon emissions. It's also the planet herself raising her vibrations to the point where in the near future, because of this turmoil, the ionosphere is being gradually taken down. That's why the ice caps are melting. That's got nothing to do with carbon emission. The cosmic rays coming to the planet are actually beneficial for her. And so this climate change, these weather upheavals are going to happen quite frequently. They're not going away, to the point where eventually there will be a temperate climate in the years to come, where there will be no 4 seasons, but a temperate climate that will pervade. But these things are happening right now, and again, it's up to us. Yes, we need to control the carbon emissions. Yes, we need to control pollution, but we have to remember that we can't change what's happening right now. This has been prophesied not only by my master, but by the prophets of old. The Hopi Indians talked about it years ago, centuries ago, about the great change coming to Mother Earth. And the African tribes, the Aborigines talked about it. And so we're part of this change and this climate change. And so again, it's even more important that we help this change by sending out this spiritual energy to help balance, to bring devic stabilization on the planet, and make conditions better than what's going on right now.
Heavy stuff. This is all heavy stuff. On a lighter note, not much lighter, but on a lighter note, chapter 7, and this of all, chapter 7, when I was reading it, kind of blew me away. And then last night, I told you this before we went on air. And last night, when I saw, well, I'm going to dive into it now. It's like, wow. I said you were incredibly prophetic, Wajid. So your chapter 7 was "Women shall rule the world," and I guess I recognize part of that. I recognize part of that because I'm a member of the advisory committee of the Women's Health Institute at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. I've been on the committee for 3 years, working on programs related to women. And actually, one of my favorite pictures that was ever taken of me, it was a lecture and at the medical school. And it was a Women's Health Institute lecture. And there were 75 women standing behind me as I'm seated, like the Godfather. So there's one guy and 75 women, because I'm on the committee. I loved that picture. It's like, wow. And you have women from all over the world that are studying at Rutgers Medical School. and so I interact often with women from all over the world, and it's great. But so you wrote "Women Shall Rule the World," and this, of all things, and you wrote, eventually women will rise up and take care of the environment, right? You wrote that.
Yes. Yeah.
So last night, last night I saw on LinkedIn, I was just kind of floating around on LinkedIn, and there was an environmentalist who was on there, a woman who I'm connected with, and she had a link. And this is what blows me away, the synchronicity of it all. There was a link, and I clicked on the link, and it was a link to a climate conference in September called "Together We Rise: The Power of Female Leaders to Solve Climate Crisis." And here I said, oh, wow, I'm going to be with WAJID tomorrow now. And he wrote about this. And here they're having a major conference dealing with what you talked about in your book. So to me, that's a wow.
Well, I think women have, Dr. King said, women's intuition is more, women is a psychic aspect of man, and their intuition is much more developed than males counterpart. And so they're, the rising of the vibrations of Mother Earth, being a planetary goddess in her own right, is going to empower the vibrations of women and give, and they will rise up against these, shackles of limitations which are being imposed upon them by males. I mean, just looking at just recently, Afghanistan, but these places are all around the world, South America, I mean, everywhere, where women are being oppressed and abused and looked at as low-class citizens. And so they will have that power given to them. And I don't think they will rule in the sense politically, but they will be custodians of Mother Earth. And so they will be in prominent positions to make sure that the planet is protected and taken care of, and all the animals and plants and people that reside there are protected. So there will be more custodians as opposed to rulers.
Right. And that's what I kind of felt that too. It's not that they're going to rule the world, but they're going to take their position in place where they should be. They should have been. I blamed I blamed it all on the Cro-Magnon caveman, who was big and strong, and he made a woman walk a couple steps behind him just because he could, and that's where it all started. I mean, it's tongue-in-cheek stuff, but again, just to reiterate, you nailed it, and it's happening like last night.
Yeah, it's beginning. Yeah, and it's going to get and it's going to get larger and larger, to the point where women eventually will say enough is enough. That we will not allow the male of the species to cause endless wars, and it's up. They will eventually say, we will not allow this.
Yeah.
And this greed and profit racketing from wars and the pollution and the economic system that is, has been said is a cancer in the heart of mankind, which doesn't allow mankind to express himself or herself spiritually, because we're all slaves to the system. All that will be gone down the road. It may need a financial and economic collapse. That may happen. In fact, it probably will happen, for then to people realize that this is not what it's about. I mean, if you look at the equality, the law of mankind, that we're all connected, it's so, for every billionaire, there's millions who are poor, and that's the imbalance right now. So the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
That's right.
And it's all that needs to be balanced out.
Correct. I read a while back that the top, and this kind of bothered me. I don't have a problem with anybody going out and earning $1 billion.
No.
And if they work hard and
it's what you do with the money,
Yeah, it's exactly what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. If you use it for, I think it was Carnegie during these last years, he suddenly realized he made all this money, and then he realized, you know what? Why did I make all this money? I just got to give it away. Then he finally realized, and he had these charities and endowments, and he came to that realization. And some people who are rich are coming to that realization as well.
Bill Gates, I think he's doing some pretty good things. I recently watched a documentary on the mind of Bill Gates, and one of his projects, which kind of really interested me, was he'd gone to third world country and he's developing a toilet that works on solar power, because what I learned is there are 3 billion people in the world who don't have toilets. 3 billion. We just take that for granted here and around the world, but that's a lot of people who don't have a toilet. And the problem then, whatever they do, then they go to a stream and they dump it, and people drink from the stream, and kids get sick. And but he's inventing, and he's got a lot of people working on it. So it's a toilet that works on solar power, and it has it purifies the water right on the spot, because it has built-in sanitation thing, and you flush the toilet and boom, 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 and the solar power, and then to dramatize that it really works, he took a glass of water from that whole process and drank it. And I take my hat off to him that he's doing that, because I think that's great. And going back to what you just said, the top 88 richest people in the world have more money than the poorest 3.5 billion. So I listen, I don't take anything away from a billionaire, but I think there's got to be a better way,
Yeah. Well, yeah, the only way to realize that we are our brother's keeper, and that that we have a responsibility, if we're in that kind of position, to help those less fortunate than ourselves. It's the law right now.
So the last
it's the law of, it's the law of decency.
it is decent. It's just humanity.
Yeah.
Period. It's just being human. You always hear you're not going to take it wherever you're going. So do something, do service, do it. So the last thing I as we wind down our chat, is if you could talk about Warrior of Light, which you wrote. It's an inspirational song, and I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah, it happened, in 2006. I was in the depth of my despair, and I'm not a singer-songwriter, but this, again, something was channeled through me, and I wrote it down, and I had a friend of mine put some music together, and I just put it up on YouTube. It's an inspiration. It's called The Warrior of Light. It's an inspiration song that I put up on YouTube.
Okay.
So it's sometimes in the depths of your despair is when you get the greatest enlightenment, and they say some of the greatest masters, before they gain enlightenment, went through terrible despair and depth of apathy. And so that's part of life. We go through deep depression and despair. It's a case of holding on and having the faith in our higher power, and again keeping the eye on service and sending out the energy, and things all eventually sort themselves out. I don't know any successful person who has not gone through tremendous challenges in their lives, and you know, has gone through terrible despair. So for those viewers or listeners who are going through challenges right now, you know, keep the faith, hang in there, send out the light. You know, one thing I found in my book, like, you know, if you're suffering from anxiety or depression, then send out love and energy to those who are suffering from anxiety or depression. You know, if you have cancer, or if your foot is broken, send out energy to those who have cancer, or if their foot is broken, or who have MS, or whatever condition that you have. If you send out energy to those who have the same condition as you have, it may not cure you, but it will give you this sense of calm and peace. And the end, because whatever you send out, you get back. So whatever love energy you send out, by the law of karma, you'll get back. So if you send healing out to those who are suffering from the same conditions that you're suffering, you will get healing back for your condition. So that's another double whammy about sending out the power, is that you always get it coming back at you. And you know, and that's what mankind doesn't understand. You know, conquest, murder, all that stuff eventually comes back, you know, and no conquering civilization has ever stayed in power. If you look through history, they've all fallen, because you know, you can't stop evolution. And so you can hold up evolution by going against evolution and regressing. But eventually, you know, the Nazis fell, the fascists fell, the communists fell, and any power that rises out of violence and intimidation and control will fall. They may stay in power for maybe, you know, a long time, but by the law of karma, they have to fall, because they're going against the law of karma, or the law of the divine, or the law of evolution, however you put it. And so you know, it's been proved over and over again. It's just that we're so stupid, we don't understand it.
We are stupid. Oh gosh. I always joke, it's not a joke. I always say that we've been in the Garden of Eden all this time. We just didn't get it. We think we were kicked out of the garden. No, we've been in the Garden of Eden. We're still in the Garden of Eden.
Well, we are. This is, you know, our utopia is of our own making. We didn't come here, you know, my master said, we didn't come here to suffer. We didn't come to this planet to suffer. This is a beautiful classroom for us to evolve. We've just been manipulated and conditioned, and our inactions have caused the situation that we are in. We can't blame a higher power or God for the conditions. There's only one. We can only blame ourselves. And so, you know, we can create a utopia, or we can create this terrible regression. And it's all within how much do we want it, and how much effort are we willing to expend in order to make a difference in the world. And every person who's listening can make a difference in their own way, no matter how small. Nothing is wasted, but nothing is wasted.
Correct. There's an old saying, he who saves a life saves the world. And I love that. And that kind of makes it all worthwhile. If you can, you know, I did a lot of mentoring of students, and if I can get through one student and help them,
Right,
then it's all worthwhile to me. Just the one, and that's kind of a nice way to end our little chat here on a Saturday afternoon. I think this has been a great chat, and I said it to you the first time. Come back. And I'm saying it to you again, please come back, and there's more to talk about, and I'll make little lists of things to chat about. But thank you so much, WAJID.